I believe there is a sequence and a code to unlocking anything you want in your life. What's happening, everybody, man? Thank you guys tuning in to another episode of the Coach Code podcast. I got my man, Mr. Gene Darden, in the house. What's going on, brother?
What's up, man? How are you?
Doing good, man. Great to see you. Great to have you back on. And man, what interesting times it is to be in real estate.
Man, you ain't kidding. I think the last time I was on your podcast, we were talking about slinging a bunch of investor offers and 35 agents and growing into $1 billion markets. And then the market turned. So here we are.
Here we are. And, for you, navigating, challenging times, there's a lot of agents out there that are struggling, trying to figure it out. And really, a lot of them are without that success manual, and a lot of them, maybe have not had to navigate through, tough and challenging times. And, being in this game long enough and enough life, definitely we've all faced challenges, but being able to navigate that for you, what's the path? What is navigating challenging times look like for you?
Well, man, you and I got together, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now. Time goes fast, but the first thing that you guys taught me was know your numbers. And knowing your numbers is important in the good and bad times. And it's a whole lot of fun in the good times to watch them run up. And in the bad times, even if they're going the other way and your companies are losing money, you're not caught out in you're not blindsided, I guess is the best way to put it. And so as you see those downturns and you study market indicators and you know exactly where your company's going, what your company nut is, what's the outbound, all those things. When you have downturns like this, you make those hard decisions, but you make them a lot faster because of the knowledge base. So while other teams or teams or agents may be in the mindset of it's going to turn, and I hope it happens soon. There's really not a measurable. They really don't have any measurables for that. It's just kind of hoping. So generally, if you run off that pretense, then about the time you start making changes, it's already long gone and too late, and there's no recovery. And so when markets turn like this, it's important to be able to know your numbers and know your direction. And even though you don't want to make those hard decisions that include layoffs and reductions in size and other things, they have to be made, and you can make them in a timely manner so you can, preserve your business and obviously gear it up for the next run. And so that's the most important piece for me. And we're making those layoffs and those changes right now, which is very painful, but I do have a clear vision of where we're going and what it's going to take to get there and what's happening right now. And I think in this market, that's, especially if you're running a bigger organization, that's critical. So.
Yeah. And, from a mindset shift, it's easy to slide down into, that fight or flight, right? When we get back into survival, into a survival instinct. So like for you, what are some of the things to, protect that mindset, protect, not just kind of giving up. And there's always a move. And the only time that we don't have a move is when we just give up. So I think it first starts in the mind and that belief system. So for you, kind of what are some of those things, those conversations, those thought corrective, when it feels like there's no hope, like what triggers and makes that change for you?
Well, I never really get to a place or let myself get to a place of no hope, but I am glad that you mentioned that because we study growth mindset. So it's really easy as a business leader to think of growth as people, markets, money. And oftentimes when business shrink and the market shift, your growth mindset may not necessarily be people, money, mass expansion, because you have to protect your cash position. However, what you don't lose sight of is the growth mindset internally, personally, and with your type people, and stay in a strategy zone to where you can create those strategies and create that growth that's going to allow you to survive those hard times. So while you have to know your business, know your numbers, know your culture, and make hard decisions based on where the market is going and what your cash position is, you never want to lose sight of the growth mindset from a strategy standpoint, from a how can we crack this nut? How can we continue to grow with what we have? And so we try to never get into the, we're shutting the whole thing down and being single agent mode. We just want to make sure that what we do have and what advantages are out there, we're taking full advantage of that. So you really want to stay in that mindset of seeking those opportunities, developing those opportunities, no matter how big your organization is, or no matter how much the market will bear. So we definitely don't shrink down into, oh my gosh, what do we do? It's just your growth becomes more of a strategy mindset growth than a people and places growth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. There was my program advisor at Strategic Coach. She shared one of, Dan Sullivan puts together kind of a quarterly book. He's got like 35 or 36. So, divide that times 4 is how many years he's been doing it. And he wrote one in either Q2 or Q3 of 20. And it was just around, scary time, scary situation. And so there was a couple, there's 10 strategies, a couple concepts here, but a couple of those kind of stand out, especially in, challenging times. A couple that kind of stand out, forget about your losses, focus on your opportunities, forget about your difficulties, focus on your progress, forget about the future, focus on today. And there's a few other things there, right? Forget about your complaints, focus on your gratitude. And I think there's a couple of those concepts in there that really help in challenging times. And really getting back to what we always talk about is what's within your control. And, the scoreboard, that's just a result. But what are our activities? What are our thoughts that we have to be in control of, that if we succeed in those today, it's going to, build that momentum and that progress to where we do have, the reflection on the scoreboard at the end that we want to see. And I think that's just, important for all of us to remember, because there are going to be the good days and then there's going to be the challenging days, but you just have to look, hey, did I do what was within my control today? And it's like you said, it first starts in the mind, and then it starts into the action of doing the activities that are required to deliver on the results that we're looking for.
Absolutely. And one thing that I picked up on what you said, and it came from Kevin, and Kevin helps keep me grounded. For folks that don't know my partner, Kevin Shoemaker, he's my yang, I'm up here, Captain Artistic and, shoot first, aim later type guy. And he's very grounded. But one of the things that we've been blessed to learn from you is how to throttle up and throttle back. And what I mean by that is based on time. When times are tight and times are tough, our goals are in weekly segments. And because we got to ring the cash register when times are tough. So we're literally strategizing week to week to week to week because of a volatile market. And so as leaders, we got to have our thumb on the pulse of that market and so in tune, because there's people that are really, really relying on what we're doing, not only by example, but what we tell them. And so when times get tight and times get volatile, we talk on a week to week basis. When cash is flowing and money's rocking, we're strategizing on a quarterly basis, or maybe even a 6-month basis. And so being able to have the knowledge base to play in the week to week space or play in the 6-month space, and being confident enough to be able to make those decisions based on your past and what you've learned is really big. And so that's what keeps that hope going. Is I'm very confident that we'll get out of this. I'm very confident that we're going to turn the corner. I'm very confident that what we've learned in this downturn is going to catapult my business even faster in the next run or whatever turns with real estate. And right now, while we're in the trenches, but it's just really cool to have that knowledge base and be able to throttle up and throttle back. And it's never an ego thing of, oh, well, I've got this big team or whatever. It's, hey, I'm going to make the best of and grow and strategize with what I have right now and what the market dictates right now and what the market indicates. And even your biggest investors in the world, they make their most money when times are bad,
right?
Not when times are good. And it's the same with a real estate agent, because if you can crack this nut and you can strategize through this and figure out how to maximize and grow your business in this, the other is cakewalk. So
yeah, and it's kind of weird, right? It feels like the market is kind of in limbo. And I think it depends upon where you're at in the country. It also, what price point, your message is resonating to, kind of dictates, where the opportunity is. Right. So, for you, kind of diving in and even yourself and then the team around you, how do you continue to find where that opportunity is, right? Where do we need to go? What's working, what's not working? And once we know, then how do we, go to it? And then even the other thing that you had mentioned, right? When cash is tight, we need to do things to make the cash register ring. How do you find somebody that's interested, but how quickly do you determine, hey, what's your true motivation? What's your timing? And like a lot of agents, they latch onto a live person that's willing. They're maybe not, maybe they are qualified. They're just not ready. How do you make that move quickly to not latch onto this and let that person vampire your time and then get back focused on, okay, hey, these are the people that are not only qualified, but they're ready, that we need to give our attention to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the biggest thing is understanding what people are going through in the market. And so just for instance, if we, I told you earlier, right before we went live, is we were having to make some pretty tough decisions today on some things. And so if we're experiencing those type things in our business, usually there's a lot of parallels and congruent with what your average consumer is experiencing in their living room every day and the same conversations they're having. So we're having them on real estate. Maybe they're having them in, healthcare or contracting or whatever. Sure. So being in tune with the market and understanding that will pretty much answer your question on who's your audience that needs help. And then your strategy is, okay, how do we find those people? And you once you figure out how to find those people, then you figure out what messaging resonates with those folks. And generally the messaging is exactly what your challenge is the message that's going to resonate with the consumer. So really identifying those one or two pillars or segments of the market that are really needing to move right now. Like in this market, man, inflation is squeezing everybody. And so, everybody sees the statistic of, oh, hey, this is not going to be a big crash like it was in 2008 because everybody was overborrowed with foreclosures and things like that. Well, I don't disagree with that at all. They also followed up with, and right now everybody has equity in their home. Well, guess what? If you have equity in your home, but you missed the credit card payment last week, you can't get a home equity loan to access the equity in your home. So if you're squeezed and they're saying 62% of the U.S. is living paycheck to paycheck. Well, if we're running 6 to 7% or whatever the numbers are they throw out there are in inflation, and you're already living paycheck to paycheck, you can't absorb that very long. So I think what we're seeing is that's been a big squeeze, and identifying that market segment is where the traction is right now. And the other piece of the traction that I'm seeing right now is a lot of divorces when things are tight. Unfortunately, that brings those things up, and job transfers. So those three things right there, and the reason job transfers is because you're seeing a lot of layoffs. And when somebody gets laid off from a job, the first thing they're going to have to do is go find another job. And often that may not necessarily be in the same market, or the same city or the same state. So identifying those things and being able to communicate with a strategy and understanding what they're going through just based on being observant is the easiest and best way to find that clientele. The second part of your question and how you would answer, how do you identify if they're ones that are really ready now or not? In these markets, it's generally very easy with a few qualifying questions to identify, hey, do they want to play in this market? And is there something that's driving them to play in this market? Because if you're sitting in a house at a $450,000 house and you got a 3% interest rate, and you're talking about selling it or getting another one at a 6 or 7% interest rate, well, there's going to be something that's driving that, because it's very hard to let go of that. So being able to ask those questions in between and really helping these clients plan from couch to couch is what I like to say, and answering those scary questions in between are huge, not only for the client and their peace with working for you, but for your knowledge base of knowing how serious they are, so you can consult with them and advise them, hey, is this a market you want to play in right now based on your current situation or not? So it's really being just super in tune with your client and where you can take them and know it. And I think once you know those things, you can help them at a level that most people can't. Most agents are really interested in talking about their pretty ass drone video and the cute stuff. And that's not what's winning right now. What's winning right now is true strategists, true consultants that can help people, truly help people, and guide them out of a place that they need guidance out of. So that's where the sweet spot is.
It is. And it's not being afraid to ask the tough questions and really trying to get down to, are they a real client in today's market? And I think that's what we're seeing a lot across the country is the people that are putting their homes up for sale are because they have to, right? And there's always going to be those indicators of, people that have to move, right? Life happens. There's things like you were talking about. And to me, that's where we have to be in our message into the market and really just being able to continue to proactively, go after those people that have those indicators. Because like you said, somebody that just thinks they want to move, they're going to hold tight unless they have to. And I think that's where we've got to spend our time and our energy. And then it's just because somebody shows interest and we don't ask the tough questions. It's that whole, right, skipping steps only presents the illusion of speed. So you got somebody really willing and able, but if you're not being that true expert advisor and asking them those tough questions, you're going to waste a lot of time. You're going to waste that time that you could be reallocating to talk to more people to determine, hey, uncovering your true motivation. But 100%, right? When you look at kind of the CHSA stuff that we did with NAEA, law number one is the law of expertise. And the very first thing is the tough questions, and just being able to get right to those tough questions quicker than later is super critical. Because like you said, it doesn't matter what you do in your marketing. It doesn't matter your track record. None of that matters if you can't uncover where they're trying to go, what they're trying to do, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? And that's really where it just has to start.
Yeah. And I tell that biggest, we coach our agents and like, hey, you could put the prettiest marketing plan in front of somebody and you can have the biggest accolades. But if you don't answer those pain points in between those couches, the couch they're on and the couch they're going to be on, if you can't answer those pain points in between and somebody else comes in and they're able to answer those pain points, that's where the peace comes from. The peace doesn't come from your trinkets. The peace comes from advice and being able to for them to know, hey, this is what I can expect from here to here, good or bad. And when you can give somebody that vision, that clarity, just like we talked about with running your business and your numbers, no one knows. Well, your clients need to know that too, but it's also a different level of knowledge and a different level of things they need to know. But if you can solve that couch to couch and there's nothing left in between that's pain, I like to draw a green line between one couch and the other. You see that green line. It's kind of like when you're on Life 360 or whatever, GPS app you use and you're driving down the interstate. You're like, hell yeah, I'm green. And then you see the red and you're like, well, that green line, if there's any red in between those green lines, you got to get rid of that red. You got to get rid of that slowdown. You got to get rid of that 20-minute traffic jam to get to the other side. And that's the riddle you got to solve. We all know how to price houses and make them look pretty. That's AFA 101.
Right.
But the other is where it's real and where it gets real. And that's something that I've gotten a chance to experience lately that, I was out of production and now I'm back in. And I miss that, man, because it's an amazing feeling when you see a light bulb go off because of something you told somebody that gives them a little bit of peace about what they're going through, that it's going to be okay and we're going to get you there. And so that's one of the things I love about leadership and coaching agents is seeing those light bulbs go off. But with clients and those with clients, it's a different type thrill. And I love helping people. So being able to answer those questions is a big deal. So I enjoy that.
Yeah. And, it's creating a level of awareness for them, right? Because as we know, it's impossible to make a change without awareness. And so being able to ask those questions creates a level of awareness that they might not have been thinking about. And so kind of, talking to buyers and sellers and finding out qualified and ready, and are they willing to do whatever it takes in today's market to achieve their desired outcome. How do you have that conversation with your agents, right? That are what it takes to succeed in a market like this? How do you have those tough conversations with them to determine, hey, are you ready, willing, and able to do what it takes to be successful in this market or not? And then if not, what is that follow-up conversation that's best for them and the best for their family? And it's, as leaders, we can't want it more than they want it for themselves. And so how do you navigate that tough conversation with them and not putting in the work? Maybe they're paralyzed, right? Because, they get into that, fight or flight or freeze when it comes to, survival. And so like, how do you talk through those tough conversations with team members?
I think it's being real, with what the market is and where it is, and then being able to say, hey, like I had a conversation with one of our teammates yesterday, Brandon, time travel. And, and we were just talking through, and I said, and I explained to Brandon, I was like, Brandon, right now I've got 2 questions for you up front, and then I'm going to work you through it. And I said, what are those? And I said, well, the first question is, do you know what you're going to do today? Like at 8:00 in the morning, did you know what your day looked like the rest of the day? And his answer was kind of not really. It's okay. I said, well, what's the number one thing you need? Well, I need contracts. I need appointments. Okay. It's okay. Do you know how many calls, emails, or texts each day it takes you to get that one appointment? And his answer was no. And I said, well, in the previous market, you had people calling you. It was free for all. Nobody was stressed. There was no volatility. And so there was a lot of movement in the market. Now there's not. So for you, it's critical that you know every day exactly what you need to do to get that one appointment. And if you don't know what that is, you've got to create that baseline before you can go any further. And you've got to have clarity every day on exactly what you're going to do that day. And you've got to stop thinking about all the business and think about your business.
Yeah.
And you got to be passionate and almost obsessed with it right now. That's what it's going to take to succeed. And you got to know as an agent right now, if you're not willing to pick up these phones, you're not willing to go deep in relationships, and you're not willing to strategize and measure, you will be one of the 60% that's going to get rooted out of this. And it's going to take you at least a month of grinding every day and a certain level of consistency to determine what it takes in order for you to get that one appointment or to get that one listing or to get that one contract. And the cool thing is once you do understand that, what let's say in February, every day it takes you 60 calls, 25 emails and 10 texts. And on those averages, you're going to get one appointment. But what agents are starting to realize, and what's the great part about it, is there's this little thing called momentum, and there's this little thing called getting better. And so those numbers in March are going to be 40 calls, 10 emails, 3 texts. And if you do that consistency over a 12 to 18 month period, no matter what market you're in, at some point, you're not going to be able to do it consistently because your database and your referrals are going to start taking over. And that's real estate 101. But when times are hard, that's where we are. And so for everybody that's, for right now, our contracts are super down. So the cool social media marketing is great, but that's a 90 to 180 day close cycle. The Google leads, 90 to 180 day close cycle, the phone, the relationships, and knowing exactly what it takes every day to get there. Those are immediate. And I don't know of any agents right now that don't need the immediate. And so those conversations this is what you need to do to survive. And if you're willing to do that, not only will you survive, but you'll thrive because you're going to eat up the market share of the 60% of the agents that are falling off that didn't do it. Right. But if you're not willing to do that, then let's have a different conversation in reference to your direction, because it's going to be painful for a minute. Yeah. And so those are the type conversations I'm having.
Yeah. And I think it's, we need to be reminded more than we need to be told. So not afraid as a leader to have those conversations over and over and over. It takes, I think team members statistically take 7 to 9 times of hearing the same message before they start to understand what you're saying. And when we're kind of in that fight or flight phase, sometimes we say it once and then we get frustrated because we're not seeing traction on it. And as a reminder, we got to step back and go, I haven't repeated myself enough yet, and continuing to do that until they almost are ending your sentences, right? And they're like, yeah, I know, I got to know my numbers. I got to know, hey, here's where I'm at. This is, how many dials that it takes for me to get a conversation. This is how many conversations I need to have an appointment. And then, how many appointments lead to a sale. Like if just a handful of those numbers is the key. And then even as leaders, the one thing that we can't do for them is put in the effort. Now, if they're willing to commit to the effort and the effort's there, then we can do our job to help them on the next steps. And I think that's where you've got to get the commitment for team leaders out there with their team members, is that you've got to get them to commit to the effort and track and measure and learn from what the effort and the data is telling them. And, just had the same thing with our team this morning, right? I've been kind of focused on LinkedIn and this stuff like that. I'm like, is it even working? Are we getting any traction? Are we generating any leads? Are we wasting our time? And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, if we're getting the same result, you just can't be going through the motions, right? You've got to be able to get results. If we're not getting results, then can we improve it, or do we need to stop doing it? Or like, what's going on here? But I think that is a reminder that we're a results-driven culture, right? It starts with effort, but the effort has to equal the results that we're after. If not, then that's just being busy. And what we're trying to find is productivity. So effort has to equal results. That's productivity. Effort without the results is just being busy. And so we've really got to just help our agents, help our team, but it's also a great reminder for ourselves. It's just like, did I move us closer to the desired outcome today? Mm-hmm. That's just a great, I think that's I picked that up maybe from Ed Milet a long time ago, just measure, did I achieve my outcomes today? And what he even says is that even take it back a step further and say, did I move me closer to our outcomes in the last 60 minutes? Right? Hey, did I move us closer to our outcomes this morning? And that's just that constant, check in with yourself. And I think that also comes what we've talked about is, how well is our relationship with the window versus the mirror? And you've got a lot of people that want to look through the window and point fingers instead of looking at the mirror and pointing the finger right back at themselves. And that's really where it has to start. It has to start with ourselves. And are we committed to doing the things that we need to do? And here's the other thing, right? And this is what you said just a second ago. And this goes back to what I was sharing, some of those concepts from Dan Sullivan. Forget about your commodity, focus on your relationships. And, forget about the future, focus on today. What do I have to do today to be able to make sure that we're making progress on what it is that we're trying to achieve is so key. So Gene, let me ask you, we talked about, especially when it gets like this, sometimes, our allocation of time can get moved into an unhealthy way, right? And, when we start running on fumes, it's like we're trying to take care of everybody on the airplane without putting our oxygen mask on first. And so one of my favorite understandings and definition of balance is just being present wherever you're at. So like for you, you got one of your friends coming to visit you?
That was my corgi coming to hang out.
Yeah. It's like, I'm just going to come on in. I'm going to come hang out.
It's not a ghost. He's just about 6 inches tall.
So my question for you, Gene, and, kind of challenging and tough times, and I think everybody has a little bit of different, but how do you, even it's not equal, right? Say, 100 hours, between life and business. How do we, for you, maybe it's 80 hours of work, 20 hours of life this week, but how do you balance that? How do you find that being present in those activities, but also finding the recharge to where, because I know you're running the gas tank empty every day. And that's just a belief, right? We run the gas tank every day and at the end of every day, and then, we reset and fill the tank going into the next day. Well, how do you keep that tank from running completely dry every day? With starting with it empty, how do you keep it, we're at least getting fuel in there for you to continue to keep pushing?
Well, all the cliche standard things, which they're not, they work. Obviously I spend a lot of time with my faith and in the word and meditating and that type of stuff in the morning just to get a clear head. Because I don't want to jump out of the bed and grab my phone and start dealing with everybody else's problems straight out of the gate without getting centered and having a clear cut direction. And so those things work, but it's also recognizing when I'm personally in that fight or flight stage. So it's, putting guardrails up on your business and taking Friday afternoons off, and the faith and the exercise are good. But when times are really tight, you run really, really fast. And what I've noticed is I'll get into a place to where I'm not thinking clearly. And one of my biggest things is quality. And I tell agents this all the time, quality is key. And when I start just checking boxes and I'm not strategic about what I'm doing, then I understand that I'm in a fight situation, and my brain is it just feels like the front of my head is just pulsating, and it just feels like it's in a spin cycle, for lack of a better term. And when you get there, recognizing that and bringing yourself out of it by meditation, by slowing down, by putting yourself in a phase of gratitude, those things are really, really key to me. But what I've really noticed is the biggest part of my stress is it's so hard to focus these days, especially when times are tight. And so I generally have a pretty clear cut plan for the day and what I want to do. But oftentimes I'll let other things in that don't necessarily belong in my day, and I won't get the things accomplished. And right now, one of my highest level activities is to get everything accomplished during the day, because it's critical that I do that, to take care of our team, to take care of our family, those type things. So just recognizing that and making sure that the quality level is high, and recognizing that when I get in that fight situation and the work that I'm putting out is not quality, being able to recognize that and slow it down and implement those other things, or even taking a day, I think you call them buffer days, just to recenter has been really key. And I think a lot of people, when you get in that, you'll find yourself, you'll check your phone literally for 48 times. And when you put it down, you don't even know why you picked it up to check it, because you're just in this state of just trying to check things off. And I tell our agents, even when you get in that state too, even if you're going to make cold calls and everything, don't just check boxes, make it quality. And if you make it quality and you'll spend some time studying your craft, then what you do is going to be 10 times better when you do it. And so you may call 10 less people, but the impact may be 10 times greater. So I do my very best not to sacrifice quality to just check boxes. And when I'm just checking boxes, I'm off balance. And so I just really, really I really try to recognize when I'm in that state, and there's no level of consistency as to why I'm in that state or when it happens, but recognizing it and getting myself out of it and keeping the quality level and the strategic level a high priority is what really, really helps me. So.
Yeah, I think being clear on the desired outcome, being clear on the goal, being clear on kind of the immediate objective, and it's, right. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. And just remembering, no is a complete sentence. And so just being real clear on what the immediate objective is, and everything else can wait. Hey, that's a great idea. Put it in the backlog. We'll look at it later. But right now, this is the only thing we need to do. And then, I think having a quick decision-making filter, right? If something's coming at you and you're like, okay, can that get us now money? If not, set it over here. Hey, can that get us now money? No, set it over here. And being okay with that is the key, because it's so easy to get tugged and do all of this. And and just because you do say no doesn't mean no forever. It's just no right now. Right. And being okay with that, I think is key. But it's the whole simplify, right? The more you can simplify things down to just a handful of activities, then you find, like you said, where's the momentum, what's working. And then it's like, okay, well, how can we multiply that? Mm-hmm. Simplify and multiply and get it down to the simplest things that are working. And then, okay, hey, this is working. This is, like you said, momentum. How can we multiply this so we can accelerate this and go faster? I think is just a great mindset and a great just reminder. Am I overcomplicating this? How can this be simpler? And really, what's working? What's not working? And how can we do more of what is working?
And having a sounding board and somebody to, when you get in that state, somebody to talk you through objectively. Your relationships in real estate are so big. And so, you need a coach like yourself. You need partners like I have with Kevin. You need a core group of people, and your core group of people is usually not going to be more than 2 or 3. If it is, you trust too many people, probably, as far as deep advice. Yeah. And so having those sounding boards and just understanding and relying on all the tools that you have, which is also strategy, but it's also relationships to get you through that next level. Those things are important. So it's kind of and also being able to be okay with being vulnerable. With two kitchen tables ago, you put me on a pedestal, man. And if I felt like standing up on the table and beating my chest, and what you said was, hey, everything you're working for, everything you're trying to do as a team leader to get out of production. And you point at me and say, he's done it. Here he is. Fast forward 8 months, I'm in production again. And I'm in a place where it's critical in my life to really do well in production. And I'm really enjoying this journey. And it's very cool to get back to roots, and it's very well to lead. It's very fun to lead by example. And I think that in these type critical markets, people need that. And so I think just having a level of vulnerability with your teammates and being able to go, hey, I'm here with you and we're doing this together and I'm going to walk with you. And yeah, I know I may have been up on a pedestal, but I also am okay with market conditions and okay with telling you, here's the journey I'm on now. And we're going to do this together. And I'm going to do everything I can to show you how and vice versa. Those are accountability partners. Those are coaches. Those are all those people you surround yourself with. So it's not just your strategy and your own personal chi, but who you surround yourself with in your relationships, whether it be coaching, leadership, friends, those type things. Those are all really, really important. Well, they are to me. So.
Yeah, no, they are. They're absolutely critical. And what we have to remember is, everything's a season, and, the season of our life, the season of our business, the season of the year, it's all a season. And just this too shall pass. And, when it's, Tony Robbins said, one of the greatest things that the concept that man ever created was the seasons. And understanding what each season means. And he even said, you can break that down in your life, right? Born into, if we're fortunate enough into, 20, 21 years old, some of us, that season ends a little bit earlier. But it's that season of spring. And so then he's like, just because a lot of things are there being nurtured for us, things taken care of, right? The seeds are being planted. And then he talks about like 20 to 40 is kind of that the season of summer, right? Of work, of doing those activities, planting everything, just working your ass off and really working through the summer. And then 40 to 60-ish, whatever he talks about, that's, the season of fall, right? Just most of we're receiving, the work from our hard work. And then, 60 to 80, he calls it winter. He said, but it doesn't have to be a dark winter. It can be a really, enjoyable winter where you're spending time more with loved ones and doing those things. And it was just really cool how he broke that down and you think about it, but the same thing even applies to our business. What happened in the market, it just shifted to another season. That's all it did. It just went to another season. There's going to be another season, coming with this. And you just got to think, okay, well, what season am I in? And what are the activities required to really thrive in this season? And I think a lot of the things that you shared, earlier in this conversation are bearing the understanding of what season you're in and then what is required during that season.
I heard something cool from Alex Hormozy the other day. And he said, and he's a strategist, of course, and he's big on messaging and fairly successful. He said, you got to have a sharp axe. If you have a dull axe, it's not good. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. But then he explained it. He was like, if you have a strategy, every time you swing that axe, you're going to have a clean cut. It's going to go through fast and you're going to keep going. The way you have a good strategy is there's more than just you that sharpens that axe. You got a John Kitchens, you got your partner, your business partner, you've got a strategy, you've got a message, all those things. And you've studied your craft. Those are the things that sharpen your axe. You can swing a dull axe and you can get the same result. It's just going to have to swing it twice as many times, 10 times harder, and it's going to be a lot more messy. And I don't mean to I'm not trying to get gruesome. Sorry. I'm not trying to get more. I'm talking about chopping wood.
Chopping wood.
But his point in saying that is a big part of your strategy. And a big part of that is understanding who sharpens your axe and keep it sharp. That resonated with me, especially right now, because I'm blessed to have a lot of people sharpening my axe. So I think if you can stay focused on that and understand how impactful that is, it'll be really helpful. So,
I love that, it's, how, it's, kind of the ladder for me, vision, model, strategy, people. To me, that axe is the people. It's the who, because, the strategy is the plan to overcome our issues within the current model, the current value proposition to the marketplace that we can monetize in pursuit of the vision, in pursuit of freedom. And I love that, that's the axe. How sharp is your axe? And it's really how sharp are the who's around you to help you when you do take that swing, because that of the strategy that you're going to a clean cut within the value proposition in the market that's going to, allow you to accelerate and go faster, right? The whole flywheel, right? What gets our momentum going faster. That's really good. That's really good, actually.
I'm glad I got to share it.
I'm glad you shared it. Thank you.
I didn't plan on it, but it just showed up. I was like, oh, I'll share that.
As we kind of wrap up here, Gene, I appreciate you jumping in. I know you're running and gunning, taking the time, and this has been really, really insightful, really helpful for a lot of reasons. But I think, like you said, there's more agents out there. There's more small business owners out there struggling than are really thriving. They also still have a lot to be grateful for. And, that's, I think, the importance of, the gratitude practice, and then acknowledging your wins to stay out of the gap, make sure we're staying in the game. But what are some final thoughts, for you, kind of message to not only your team, but, the message to your family, to yourself, to those closest to you, that, hey, this is kind of where we need to be focused on. This is what we should be excited about moving forward.
I think that in this market and where we are right now as an agent, we have the biggest opportunity we've ever seen, and it's relational. And you have the biggest opportunity to make an impact in somebody's life. And a lot of times as agents, we think about volume, we think about numbers, we think about playing offense, we think about touching as many people as we can with an email, a text, a phone call, and all those things are important. But in a market like this, in a big shift where things are being squeezed, you have the opportunity to make such a huge impact in people's lives as an agent and truly bless them and move them to another place in their life. Well, that's a huge 10X factor, because they will never, ever forget that. So while your transactions may be a little bit less because of the amount of market share and the amount of demand in this market right now, the impact you make on the clients that you serve will serve you for the rest of your career. And you have a massive opportunity, and I think the next 18 to 24 months to do that. And if you do that with enough people, you'll never have to pick up the phone again, because people will never, ever, ever forget that. So I can give you 1,000,000 strategies and 1,000,000 people to call and a way to touch mass people. And we got those strategies. But right now, if you're looking for the meat in the sandwich, that's it.
That's it, man. It's lifetime value, deepening of the relationships, and, reaching out to those 1 or 2 people that you're thinking about. Just go ahead and reach out to them. And I was reading through some of Ryan Holiday's stuff, and it's just kind of his thing is like, you don't understand the impact of just connecting and reaching out to somebody, what that does. And so just a great reminder there. And reading some of his stuff again this morning, and it made me kind of think for what a lot of us are going through. And it said, we are made by doing hard things. And so just kind of think through that and just let that sink in for a second, right? Running and navigating a business through tough times will make you. It'll damn sure make you. So, continue to do those hard things, because that'll really make us who we are.
Right on. It will, man, for sure. It's cool. It's cool to be attached for folks like you, man. You're one of my axe sharpeners, so I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. We're going to keep it sharp for sure. Gene, I appreciate you, brother. Always great connecting, ton of value. You guys listening in, catching this podcast episode, Gene, you guys knock out some great content. You and Kev, you got the podcast flying. Where can people connect with you and connect with, get into some more of that awesome content that you guys are putting out?
Yeah. So if you just Google the real estate doctors, you'll find several. We put it on all the platforms. So we're on Spotify, Apple, all those. And all we talk about on real estate doctors is agent strategy. And the strategy we talk about is usually what's going to help you right now. So we try three out of the 4 podcasts a month. We try to talk about exactly what's going to help you in your business right now. And then the 4th podcast is more of an eagle's eye view of, what you can do for your business and grow as the future comes along. So, man, we would love for you to link in and subscribe with us. And of course, anything else is if you Google SRS Global Partners, we're around, and we'd love to connect with you in whatever way you want. So
I love it, man. Make sure you guys connect. Tons of valuable content. These guys are back in the trenches daily, running organizations in polar opposite markets. So there's tons of insightful, current knowledge that you guys can tap into. Brother, appreciate you. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode. See ya.